So, good morning, everyone. So, in our last class, we were studying the aspect of machine learning in IoT and how supervised, unsupervised, and neural networks can be used in IoT environment. So, machine learning and intelligence from big data. So, they can be classified into two groups: local learning and remote learning. So for each application, the right algorithm and the right learning model has to be used. So no algorithm or no model will fit in all the application domains. So in local learning, so the data is collected and processed locally either in the sensor itself or in the gateway. So if processing happens at a sensor, it is the edge node, or if it happens at a gateway, then it is called as a fog node. So or the learning or processing of data can happen at the remote place. So where the data is collected and sent to a central computing unit. So maybe a cloud. So that is called as a remote learning. So the regardless of a location and how and where the data is processed. So there are four major domains of applications for machine learning in IoT. So they include monitoring, behavior control, operations optimizations, self-healing, and self-optimization. So these are the four domains of application areas of machine learning. So in monitoring, the smart objects are the sensors. They monitor the environment in which they are operating. So the data is collected from them and the conditions of the environment are analyzed. So these conditions may be external or they may be internal factors. So external factors may include the temperature of the air, humidity, the presence of toxic chemicals or any other gases. So these constitute the external factors for the application. Maybe internal factors include the conditions of a machine, such as the pressures in a pump, viscosity of the oil that is being flown in the pipe, and so on. So when these conditions are measured, they can detect the early failure conditions, maybe by using the k-means deviation algorithm. So that is capable of detecting the out of range behaviors. So these are better to evaluate the environment automatically. Maybe when we have a robotic automatic classifications of materials. So based on the shape, so this robot can sort the material or pick the goods in a warehouse or a supply chain. So monitoring will often lead to controlling. So such domain, we call it as a behavioral control domain. So when a given set of parameters, they reach or cross the threshold values, the definite set of actions to be performed, maybe that is known well in advance, maybe through supervised or dynamic learning, it can also be done. So the monitoring here functions to generate an alarm. So this alarm may be relate to human, but in a more efficient and more advanced system, so that can trigger the corrective actions. So the corrective actions may include in a factory environment, blowing the fresh air into the mining tunnel if the oxygen levels are less. If the temperature is more, then the coolants may be activated. So in sorting, robotic arms can be moved. maybe reducing the pressure of a oil in a pipe. So these are corrective measures that can be taken based on the monitoring. So the next domain include the operations optimization. So behavioral control can take a corrective action based on the threshold value. However, when the data is analyzed, they can lead to overall change in the process. For example, consider a water purification plant in a smart city. So let us assume it has a two different chemicals from company A and company B. So they are used at certain temperature and a stirring mechanism that will mix that chemical with the water. So when this stirring is happening, so we can have a layered approach. So just like neural networks. So this layer will estimate which is the best chemical and the stirring mechanism that can provide the same purification efficiency but with reduced consumption of chemicals. So such kind of learning will result in different machine actions that not just detect the threshold values but also they will improve the overall efficiency and the results of the operations. The fourth and the last category or domain of machine learning include self-healing and self-optimization. So this is one of the fastest developing aspect of deep learning in a closed loop. So a machine learning based monitoring, they trigger the changes in the machine behavior and operations optimize them. So in turn, machine learning engine can be programmed to dynamically monitor and combine the new parameters into the system, and automatically they can arrive at a new optimizations and results that can possibly be demonstrated for the gain of the overall performance in the application. So this self-learning and self-optimization may use a k-means deviation that result in detection of few potential defects and allowing the system to self-heal. Here, the healing doesn't mean that the overall system is modified. So that may include the external human operator. So they can intervene and diagnosis can always be automated. So in many cases, what happens? So when an equipment is about to fail, the self-healing and optimization may detect that particular component and they can place an order automatically for that component, or it can take a corrective action to avoid the failure, which includes slowing down of operations or modify a machine's movement. So those things can be done. A weather sensor mounted on a light pole in a smart city can gather the information about the pollution level. So once the data is collected about the pollution levels, so possible actions can be taken. So just like in transportation, so they can reduce the industrial pollutants by sending the alert messages to lower the level or to shut down the machines. So all those things can be done based on the sensor, or the public transport systems can be utilized more if the pollution level goes up. So multiple smart objects, they measure the pull between the carriages, the weight of each wheels can be measured to in order to control the optimization of the cruise in a vehicle from a driver's perspective. So this is the predictive analytics. So they can predict the system in future, what will happen in the future. So based on that, the corrective actions can may be taken. So there will be tens and thousands of sensors that are mounted on a vehicle. So they will be gathering the information, maybe the pressures of the tires, the noise, maybe they may be fitted with a camera. So they can look ahead of the track, what is there, audio sensors on each wheel that will analyze the sound that is generated. If there is any problem in the wheel system, lubrication can be done. So likewise, so each locomotive can be analyzed by connecting it into a many sensors. So in predictive analytics, so it is about predicting what may happen in the near future. So based on that, so certain corrective actions can be taken. So this was about machine learning in IoT. So next we shall study how big data can influence the applications in IoT. So as we all know, so big data is all about collecting the data, storing them, manipulate and analyze the heterogeneous data. So Hadoop is the core framework or set of softwares to handle the big data implementation. So big data, it consists of different softwares to collect, store, manipulate and analyze the data. So big data is categorized based on three V's, that is velocity, variety and volume. So volume will decide how large the data is. Variety indicates the type of data. Velocity refers to how quickly a data is collected and analyzed. So Hadoop distributed file system, it is designed to ingest and process the data very quickly. So here the smart objects can generate the machine and sensor data at a very high speed, and they require the database or file system that are capable of storing the data at that particular speed. So here ingest means collecting the data from the data sources and storing it on a drive. So that is called as a ingest. So a variety of data type will be there. The data may be categorized as structured, semi-structured, or even unstructured. So different database technologies may have the different capability of accepting the data. Here Hadoop is capable of collecting and storing all the three types of data. So volume refers to the scale of data. So the data on a lower end is measured in GBs, but at the extreme end, so the data may be measured in petabytes or even exabytes. So big data implementations, so they scale beyond the capability that is present in our local systems. So there will be clusters of servers, dozens of hundreds and thousands of large network of nodes. So that is capable of storing and processing the data. So big data analytics deal with data that is quickly generated, that is of different types, and it can scale to very high volume. So the characteristics of big data is depends on the source and the type of data. So we have machine data that is generated by the sensors and devices. So they are typically unstructured data. The another category of data we have is a transactional data. So they are produced from the transactions that occur. They are highly structured and the volume is also very large. Social data, so they are generated by the uh, medias or social media, where the data is also of very high volume and structured. So enterprise data, so here the volume is less, but they are also structured data. So the big data consists of data from all these sources and all of them are separate. So they will be stored, processed and analyzed in the big data platforms. So big data will come up with the data ingest layer. So data ingest is a layer that connects the data sources to the storage devices. So this layer is capable of pre-processing, validating, extracting and storing the data. So here it can also store the data temporarily for a processing. So this is an intermediate layer between the data source and the storage. So we have multi-source ingestion. If the data is collected from multiple sources, then it is called as a multi-source ingestion. So in multi-source ingestion, the ingest nodes will receive the stream of data from multiple sources and all of them will be combined together, processed, and before passing on the data to intermediates node for the final storing. So these multi-source ingestion systems, so they are implemented in many batch systems and real-time systems. So in industries, the data that is generated traditionally were of relational DBMS and historians. So relational databases include Oracle and Microsoft SQL. So they are very good for transactional or processing of data that can be stored in rows and columns. But the problem with relational data is over a period of time, it will take time to fetch the required data. But these are capable of analyzing the complex data relationship on a data that arrives over a period of time. On the other hand, so historians are nothing but the time series data. So that is the data that changes with time or the data that has a time associated with it. For example, we have the temperature sensor data. So that depends on the time. So the time at which the sensor has captured the data. So maybe pressure, quality of a material. So all those things, they vary with time. So the data that varies with time, so they are categorized as historians. So these historians are built with a very high speed of data storage and retrieval. So, so recording each data point in the series of time for storage and for analytics is done in historians. So these two technologies, relational databases and historians, are very mature technologies that are being used from few decades. But the possibility of accommodating sensor and machine data have opened up a new category of database technologies. And the three popular categories of uh, data storage include massively parallel processing systems, NoSQLs, and Hadoop. So old systems were using relational DBMS and historians. which are now not capable of handling the sensor and the machine data. So let us look into these three categories one by one. So massively parallel processing databases. So in earlier days, the enterprises were using the relational database for storing the structured data in rows and columns. So these are often classified as a data warehouses. But as and when the data keeps on arriving and database grows in length, it will consume more time to get the required data. So depending on the number of items that are present in the database and the complexity of the query, the response of a traditional DBMS will be slow. So that is why the parallel processing databases were used. So that is called as massively parallel processing database. So these databases are built with the concept of relational databases, but they needs to be much faster, efficient, and can reduce the query times. So in order to provide the query result in short duration of time, this massively parallel processing database, they use the multiple nodes or multiple computing systems for both data processing across the distributed systems. So you can look at this diagram. So this multiple parallel processing database, so they follow the architecture that is called as share nothing architecture. Here there are n number of nodes that are present. So each node is having their own storage, processing unit. So they do not share any of the resources with any other nodes. So when a query is made to this particular database, so it first reaches the master host. So this master host will instruct the segment host to do the processing. So this forms a cluster and master host will control the entire cluster. So here the single master node is responsible for coordination of all the data storage and processing across this particular cluster. So these work in share nothing manner where each node contain its own memory and storage will operate independently. The data storage is optimized across the nodes in SQL-like format. So that allows the data analyst to work with the data using common SQL tools and application. So here in massively parallel processing database, so each host will process the data and finally they are aggregated together by the master host, and master host will return the data to the application. So in this particular architecture, there will be a standby master node. So that will be acting as a secondary master. So in case the master host fails, then the entire processing will be stopped. To overcome that, whenever a master host fails, the standby master will take the role of a master host so that the processing will not be stopped, because the master host is the central part of this computing and it will be coordinating all the nodes in the cluster. The next category of databases that are used in big data include NoSQLs. This NoSQL means not only SQL. which means including SQL, there will be few other technologies that will be used. So it is a class of databases that support semi-structured and unstructured data, unlike SQL which just supports structured data. So NoSQL is not a specific DBMS technology, but it is a umbrella or a cluster that encompasses several database types. So they include documents, key value pairs, wide column stores, and graphical stores. So the each a data system is called as a store here. In document stores, this type of database, they store the semi-structured data. So such as XML, that is extensible markup language, and asynchronous objects of JSON. So document stores generally have query engines and indexing features that allow many optimized queries to run on documents. Then key value stores. So this particular database, they have just like the associative arrays where data is stored in a key value pair manner. So for each key, if we pass, they will get it, we will get the associated value. So such key value pairing storage is also supported in NoSQL. So these key value pairs are easy to scale and integrate. So similar to key value stores, wide column stores will be there, which means the value field which we have, that can be of any length. The format of the value can vary from being a very small string to a row, even in the same table. So some values may be short, so some values may be very large. Then the graph stores. So this type of database is organized based on the relationship between the elements. So the relationship between the elements are defined as a graph. So the graphs usually store the social media data and the natural language processing data. So NoSQL was developed to support the high velocity and urgent data requirements of modern web application that typically do not require much repeated use. So one time use. So the data is just, they are retrieved, used. So the original intent was to quickly ingest uh, the data that are present in the server logs or the click stream of data that is generated by the web applications. So these kind of server logs or click stream data, they doesn't neatly fit into rows and columns that are required by the relational databases, but they are supported in NoSQL. So NoSQL is built to scale horizontally, allowing the database to span multiple hosts and can even be distributed across the geography. So NoSQL supports the distributed system where data can be stored in any part of the globe. So NoSQL key value stores are capable of handling the indexing and persistence simultaneously at a very high rate. So NoSQL thus can become a great choice for storing the time series of data. So which can record a value at a given interval of time, such as maybe temperature, pressure reading from the sensor. So here time can act as a key and the temperature value will act as a value. So that forms the key value pair, and retrieving a key value pair is faster compared to traditional rows and column method of data storage. So many NoSQL database provide the additional capability to query and analyze the data within the database itself, eliminating the need to move the data from the storage to the processing unit. And these NoSQL databases also provide a variety of ways to query the database through an application programming interface, thus making them easier to integrate with any kind of application. So through a function call, we can send the query and we can get the result back either as a XML or a JSON objects. So these are the advantages of massively parallel processing databases and NewSQL. So we shall study about the Hadoop data storage management in our next class.